All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Bryan Daniels. I'm President and CEO of the Blount Partnership, and we are continuing our community conversation series with Dr. Tom Bogart, President of Maryville College, has joined us today to kind of talk about the effects of COVID and the opportunities and changes that the college has had to go through. Dr. Bogart, welcome to our community forum.
Oh, I'm honored to get the chance to participate. Good to see you, bro.
Good to see you. You're no stranger to us. You have served in a variety of leadership roles and continue to do a great job for Maryville College. This is a live webinar, if you will, that folks are encouraged that have logged in and registered as we do our conversations. If you have any questions, feel free to message them, and we will ask those questions toward the later of the interview. Dr. Bogart, one of the things I wanted to start off with is talk to us a little bit about the changes the college has undergone to combat COVID-19, and then kind of step us through as the disease really started to become prevalent across the U.S., what steps you all took to ensure the safety of your students and your staff and faculty.
Well, happy to, because the safety is always foremost in everything that we do. We take that responsibility really seriously. What was amazing is, as we all think back on it, is how quickly it happened. I was looking at something the other day. As late February, our big concern was we had a couple of students studying abroad in Italy, and we were working on getting them home. It seems quaint to think that that was the top of mind concern when we realized what happened over the next couple of weeks. So, as the magnitude of the disease and the seriousness of it became very clear to us and everyone else, we very rapidly started formulating plans. Actually, Friday, March 13th, there was a Blount Chamber Partnership education update that I participated in. So that morning, I participated in that update. That afternoon, I chaired a meeting of the presidents of our athletic conference where we canceled the rest of the spring.
Wow.
And Friday the 13th was also the day that our spring break began. And what we told students was, we're not sure, but there's a good chance that you might not be able to come back to campus. So please take with you on spring break anything that you might really need to have. By the middle of the next week, we had made the decision to extend spring break for a week and then resume classes online on March 30th. Now, to put that in context, Maryville College has a 200-year history of operating in person. We had done some very limited online education. In 2 weeks, our faculty and staff and students pivoted from being basically 0% distance education to 100% distance education. And some future historian will marvel at this, and there are amazing stories to be told of creativity and resourcefulness and resilience with that. And then, we did that because at the time we weren't sure when it would be safe to bring people back. And as we know, what we ultimately decided was we were going to do the rest of the semester in a distance format. One of the things I want to emphasize, or two things I want to emphasize. One is there are still students living on campus at Maryville College. There are some students that, all of them are people who, for a variety of reasons, weren't able to go home. In some cases, that was international, and travel was impossible. In other cases, it were students who literally didn't have another housing alternative. We regularly have students with that situation, and we're proud to get to work with them. So we've had students living on campus the entire time. We've also had several dozen physical plant and security employees working this entire time. And they have just done amazing work. They're on the front line for making sure that everyone is safe, everyone is secure. And I'm really proud of them and the job that they've continued to do. So people sometimes talk about the college being closed. The college is open. Most people are off campus. The scene behind me is my office at home, not my office on campus. We still have residents, we still have people working on campus every day. And I'm happy to talk about the variety of different aspects of how that's evolved, but big picture, we closed down, but in retrospect, seems kind of late and slowly. At the time, it was really, really quickly, and did the best we could. And just people have been creatively working with it ever since, as all of us try to figure out what the current status is and look a little bit into the future to catch up with the future.
So what is the end of the school year, if you will, the spring semester and commencement? What does that look like?
Well, it's happened. So our semester ended earlier in May. Because we extended spring break a week, we ended the semester a week later than usual. As a result, among other things, we didn't get the chance to have all of the culminating activities that we usually do in person. And so we had various awards ceremonies and other types of honor society inductions, other activities. We had those online. And then we also created a virtual commencement that was first broadcast on Saturday afternoon, May 9th, and is now available both on social media, on the college website, and on our YouTube channel. And some seniors were happy to participate in that, not as happy as we would to be there in person, but we did the best that we could. We rescheduled our in-person commencement to December 19th, which is the end of the fall semester. And so, again, none of us know what exactly the future holds. When we were doing this work, we were pretty sure we wouldn't all be able to gather in a full Clayton Center or on the lawn in late August. And so by postponing to the end of the fall semester, the idea is, well, maybe we can do some of those similar kind of culminating activities at that point in person. And also by giving that length of lead time and by having it close to the Christmas vacation, that some of our families and our students who would struggle maybe to get here in August or September or October might be able to figure out a way to do it with enough lead time so that as many people as possible are able to do it. But that was a huge impact. I mean, I can't understate that. Colleges run on tradition and ceremony, and Maryville College has an amazing way of celebrating these important occasions. And so I hate for our students that they weren't able to go through them in the usual way. Again, but I'll applaud the spirit that everyone has shown in trying to find the best possible way of carrying on the spirit, even though the piece in the flesh is very physically distant from
Oh, sure. So with carrying on the tradition or trying to, what does the summer sessions look like?
We are holding all of both our May term, which is just wrapping up now, and our summer sessions in a distance format. Again, mostly online, but a variety. Some things are by mail, some things are posted on the websites and so forth. But we went ahead and did those in a distance learning format. I have a task force of campus leaders, about 25 of them, who essentially the minute the semester ended about 2.5 weeks ago, agreed to volunteer when I asked them to think through various scenarios for what the fall semester could look like. And I gave them until tomorrow to present a report to me and the leadership team. Obviously, that is not going to be the 400-page detailed every single possible outcome.
Sure.
What I asked them to focus on was, at a very high level, what are the decisions we have to make and when? you know, that in scenario planning, we know we're never going to be able to anticipate every detail. But what we need to know is, well, if we're going to have the fall semester start in August, there are decisions that we're going to have to make before August. Well, what are those decisions and when do we have to make them? And so that's going to be the emphasis that they're coming back with. And as I said, we also have an ongoing group that started meeting in early March. It started on a daily basis, and that's evolved into about twice a week now. And it's been a slightly evolving cast of characters. It's about 8 people. And so we've got this group that's looking at the fall semester. For a while, what we were focused on is how to get through the spring semester, and then that's evolved into how are we going to safely start bringing faculty and staff back onto campus this summer. And so, you know, clearly, again, I haven't seen the final report from this working group. In order for us to bring students back in August, we have to have faculty and staff back on campus sometime before August. And so, like most places, and really in accordance with the good guidance from the CDC and from Governor Lee's Tennessee Pledge and from the public health perspective, what we're looking at is a phased reopening. And our first phase is going to start June 15th. And again, what we've got with that, we're going to issue the detailed guidelines, I expect probably this week or next week. But really, those detailed guidelines start from a set of principles, a set of principles about how we're going to make decisions for Maryville College, a set of principles about what public health should be looking like if we're going to bring people back, and then a set of principles about how we are going to behave safely in the workplace. And so again, what we found all along is, and this has always been the case at Maryville College, you know, we start with the college mission, and then we go from, you know, health and safety and best practices. The detailed policies, they don't write themselves, but it becomes pretty straightforward for us to make good decisions when we're starting from those kind of principles.
Dr. Bogart, did the college have any cases of COVID it had to deal with on campus at all?
We have not yet, to my knowledge, had any positive reported cases. I will say, in general, because of health privacy acts, my general answer on those kinds of questions is I would refer to you to Blount County Health, which is you know, testing and tracing and doing all of those kinds of things.
Understand.
You know, particularly during the time where we were moving people out. I didn't go into this in detail. Again, we sent the students home for spring break. We then didn't let them come back to campus. So,
right.
How did they get their stuff? What we did was, again, you know, working with our public health counterparts, and what we developed was a process where people could come back and safely retrieve their belongings. And I expect probably the campus move-in is going to have that same kind of flavor. You know, some colleges, if you saw, you know, you had this traffic jam of people all on campus taking things away. Well, that's really not social distancing. And what we did was we scheduled students to come back and get their furniture, books, possessions, whatever it was they didn't have, but did it in a way that, you know, they had a window to come and do it. And so we weren't endangering either students and their families or our staff who were on campus coordinating and supervising that move out. And
right.
So move out took a couple of weeks instead of the usual, you know, couple of days. But we thought that, you know, again, we wanted to do that the right way.
Right. Well, you've got such an international presence. That's the reason I kind of asked the question of, with COVID, it manifested itself in another country, had moved here. And along those lines, has this affected your enrollment numbers for upcoming fall?
Yeah, the short answer is we don't know yet what the impact's going to be on the fall. We do expect there to be an impact. As you pointed out, we expect an impact on international students, both some international students who are full-time enrolled students are still in the United States. And so in that case, that's just like any other student who's in the United States.
Right.
Just as our government is essentially telling people don't travel overseas, a lot of other governments are telling people don't travel overseas. And, you know, unfortunately, the United States is not perhaps considered by the rest of the world to be the safest place to go to for COVID-19 right now. So that will have an impact on us, I think, especially for our international exchange students. And of course, it has an impact on us for our students who would be studying abroad. And so there's that. We also are not sure what the impact's going to be on whether students and their families feel safe to travel, feel safe to move onto campus. Again, we're focusing on safety first. It's the right thing to do. It's also really important to focus on safety first because we are asking faculty, staff, students to trust that there will be as safe an environment as possible on campus. Just as with every risk, you know, we never take any risk down to zero, but we can follow best practices to appropriately mitigate risk. In our case, that's vital because about 80% of the revenue for Maryville College is directly tied to student enrollment, to fees, room, board, bookstore, so forth. And so for the college, as an ongoing business, it's vital that everyone feels safe coming to campus.
I realize that we are all waiting on Governor Lee to come forward with the next mandate of how further Tennessee is going to open up, and we're all subject to those orders. Talk to us a little bit about the process that you all go through as it relates to athletics. Athletics is a big part of Maryville College and opportunities, and as we continue to go toward the fall, I don't expect you to have a crystal ball. I'm really intrigued or want to understand how you all come together to create maybe some innovation of how athletics may look in the fall to create social distancing to allow people to enjoy it.
Right. I think athletics is an especially prominent dimension of this general question about how to reopen society while maintaining various forms of social distancing and other risk mitigation. So with our student athletes, you know, what we're going to be doing is looking at there are some national groups. The NCAA partners with National Sports Science Institute. There's also the American College Health Association. So there is national guidance on how best to maintain a safe environment for our student athletes that we are following very closely, or we're watching very closely to understand how best to do that. And we will be following best practices if and when we're able to bring our student athletes back on campus and to start their participation. But of course, our student athletes will also be living on campus. And so we're having to look at what's the appropriate steps in the residence halls. And, you know, so every college, you might have read, you know, some colleges and universities are setting aside some housing in case we need to quarantine. Others are maybe restricting the capacity, you know, restricting occupancy, again, in case of need to quarantine and so forth. I mentioned this work group that's looking at scenarios for the fall. That's the sort of question they're looking at is, so when our students move back on campus, how are we making sure that their residence environment is safe, as well as their practice environment and ultimately their competition environment? They're going to need to eat. In my inbox that I'll read after I get off of this conversation with you is a first draft from Met's Dining on what their plans are on how to serve food in a way that is safe for our students and also really will fill their needs nutritionally and in terms of taste and variety. And then, of course, they're student athletes. So they're students first. And so we're looking at how do we maintain social distancing in the classroom? And that's likely to require moving some classes into larger spaces, but also probably moving some classes in terms of time. Unfortunately, we did have a little bit of a dry run of this, or dress rehearsal for this when we took Anderson Hall offline a number of years ago to renovate it. To figure out, well, where are we going to have all the classes that we're meeting in Anderson Hall? And so we moved classes into all kinds of spaces and at all kinds of times that they didn't usually have. I expect that there will be a version of that this coming fall. And then the other piece, just on the athletic experience, you know, one of the wonderful parts of athletics is it builds community as people go and cheer for their friends, for their neighbors, or in the case of many of our Maryville and Blount County friends, they just come because they love the college and like being there and supportive for us. And we're truly grateful for that support. I'm not yet sure what the rules are going to look like for gathering. So are we going to be able to sit next to each other in the stands and watch a soccer game or watch a football game? I'm not sure yet. And so again, we're working on that aspect of it. You'll probably have a question about the Clayton Center, which is
was going to be my next
too.
question.
But
Exactly.
but I mean, I think, you know, so you know, as you see, the question about athletics for us, really, whatever it is that we have to do to accommodate and best serve our student athletes is going to require us to think through how we serve the entire student body. And it exposes all of those different kinds of questions. And it's complicated and interlocking set of questions.
It's got to be a challenge because your athletic programs, you've got a pro forma on those. If you're going to generate so many ticket sales or patrons that will buy memorabilia, if you will, on campus, there is that whole business model, and we all need sponsors to have that come off. And with a downturn right now, plus limited capacities for seating people, I would imagine your budget process is kind of a little bit of a flux of you take your best guesstimate and you kind of work from there.
Yeah, it is. And you know, actually, you know, we don't have the kind of TV contracts and so forth that maybe other colleges and universities that people might be familiar with nearby have. But we do have a number of wonderful corporate sponsors, including the Tourism Authority, but a number of our chamber partner companies have very generously provided both sponsorship for individual sports and events, and then some ongoing sponsorships that make a difference. And of course, you know, they do that because they love us, but they also do it because it's a great way to have their name out in front of a lot of people coming to the event. So I know that they're going to have to think about what their marketing budgets and philanthropy budgets look like. For us, a lot of it is, you know, a lot of our students come to Maryville College, of course, for the great academics, but they also want to participate in their activity, whether that's athletics or theater, church activity, whatever it might be. And so, you know, if we're not able to offer a full rewarding experience, then the real risk for us is that we will lose enrollment from that as people decide to go elsewhere. And again, as I said, that's the case with athletics, but it's the case with a lot of our different activities. And again, this is a place where, you know, I can't say it often enough. We at Maryville College are so blessed to be in this kind of supportive community. You know, our signature academic program, Maryville College Works, that's part of our core. Well, the only way we're able to have that is that students are able to have the experiences as interns or, you know, as volunteers or in meaningful places in government, nonprofit, and business. We've already seen in the spring a lot of our partners, and we're seeing this in the summer, a lot of our both corporate and nonprofit partners have been really creative at pivoting away from in-person to other types of models where our students can still have that rewarding pre-professional experience. And, you know, I think that continuing to look for ways that are win-wins, because the win for the companies, as you know, I mean, in the short run, our unemployment is through the roof, but our employment rate a few months ago was close to zero. And so companies are looking for good people. We're graduating good people. And if we can start building those relationships while they're students, I think it's going to be a great win for the region. And so, you know, I think that, you know, we see that with the athletics, but we see that across the board, that there's that ongoing ecosystem here. And I think that that's going to be the key to both our success. I think is really going to be the key to the region's success is as we move out of shutdown and into these various phased reopenings, and then over time into a full, you know, vaccine and treatment, whatever the new normal is, that we keep looking for those ways to grow together and to join together and partner together.
Let me ask you, most college presidents, when they're beginning to wind down their career at one location, going to the next opportunity, they don't take on challenges like COVID-19. Talk to us a little bit about the next steps for you in the transition to the next president. You've done a great job at Maryville College. You've been very active in the community. We've seen more engagement from you as president of Maryville College with our organization than we have in our past. So kudos for you being engaged in the community. But talk to us a little bit about the transition of what that looks like amid COVID.
Yeah, well, for me selfishly, so, you know, last summer, you know, I worked with the board chair and we developed a communication strategy, and we announced last summer that this was a good time for me to hand things off. And, you know, we've got a strong leadership team. There's a really good strategic plan. There's a lot of momentum coming out of the bicentennial, supportive community. It was a perfect time to bring someone in to build on that. And I still stand by all of those things. I still feel very good about the future. The last little bit of it, the transition has not been exactly the type of transition that any of us had envisioned. As I've assured people, it is at least a very memorable last. You know, this year will not blur into any others, and so there's that. But you know, for me personally, you know, I'm looking for what's next, and I've had 3 jobs in 30 years. And so I'm not a job hopper. I like to look for something that has a mission where I feel like I can add value and that's in a rewarding, you know, situation in a great community. And boy, the last 10 years have just been so much better than I ever could have expected coming in. And so we're looking for that. As it turns out, the last few months have not been an ideal time to look for the next job. So Mary and I just put all of that on hold. And, you know, the original plan was I was going to take a whole bunch of vacation in May and June as a way of stepping out of the way as Dr. Coker, the new president, was going to be ramping up. Again, that's not the case. I'll take some vacation starting July 1st, and that'll be fine. So for us, and I will say, selfishly, you know, not moving and starting a new job July 1st is okay. Now, Dr. Coker, on the other hand, is moving and starting a new job on July 1st. And so, you know, that's always challenging to come in and be the new person. And I feel real good. You know, the board on higher ed is actually very good about this, that we can have these long transition periods. In certain industries, that's unheard of. You know, so the board, starting last summer, undertook a very thoughtful process, and, you know, I know talked to some community members, had extensive conversations with the campus community, had a thoughtful multi-month search, national search, and ended up with a strong set of finalists. And from that set of finalists, they picked Dr. Coker. And so I know that he's very enthusiastic to start here. I think he and his family have bought a house and will be moving here. And, you know, again, the nature of these things, especially because of social distancing, you know, I haven't gotten to spend time in person with him like I usually would, but I've had the chance to Zoom a little bit. And more to that, I know what the board was working on when they were looking for the next person. And again, they anticipated a different type of summer and fall.
Yeah.
But they weren't hiring a president for this summer or this fall. Had 11 presidents now, and now it'll be 12 in over 200 years. They were hiring someone who was going to come in here, you know, let's say for the next decade or more. And I know that that's what Bryan had, the other Bryan, and he spells it with a like that. But I know what they were looking for was someone, or one aspect of it was someone who would be very community minded and who would be looking to be fully engaged in the community. And so and based on everything I've heard from him and based on what I know the board was looking for, people can expect to see him active. Now, what I would say is he'll be active in a way that's different than me. The same way I was active in a way that was different than Dr. Gibson, because we're all different people. But, you know, I know that he is excited about the chance to be engaged in such a supportive community. And so that part will continue. And again, although the exact events are different, we had already planned a nice transition, and that transition is operating. Again, it's just the details of how it's operating are very different than any of us expected 3-4 months ago.
Dr. Bogart, we've had one of our folks that has logged on make a statement, and it says, Dr. Bogart, when you have any more formal guidelines, can you let us know, as small businesses within the chamber, what we can do to help the Maryville College students with amended types of internships and first jobs, so that the COVID-19 crisis isn't a totally negative part of their senior year, which is a great statement.
Yeah, and boy, that's the kind of thing I've heard and enjoyed for 10 years is people just stepping up that way. And I guess what I'll always say is Maryville College Career Center. If you're a business and you don't know where to start, Maryville College Career Center is a good place to start. President's office, I used to tell people to talk to me, but that's less and less valuable as time. Yeah. The president's office, I will say in general, the president's office is a good first contact, because as I would tell people, it's not that I'm necessarily the one who can do it for you or give you the right information, but I have a broad view of campus and I can get you to the right person or close to the right person pretty quickly. So the President's Office and the Career Center are two great places to start. Anytime you want to do that. We also, we have career fairs. We have a lot of different activities that businesses can get involved in for a pretty nominal cost, I think, and really get a chance to have your first crack at these students before other companies are even aware that they exist. You can have them hired before anybody else even knows they're there.
Well, one of the things that we're trying to do with the community is make it continuing enticing for your graduating seniors to want to stay here. Once the workforce is here, we really want to cultivate them to build their lives here. Maryville College is definitely a strategic partner in that. So, well, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. Is there anything that you would recommend to the community that we could do to support Maryville College during this time?
Wow, it's hard to think. As I like to say, one of the highest compliments I ever give is more of the same, only better. You know, I really think that looking for those opportunities to directly engage with students, and here's why. Is I mean, again, it can be great for the businesses because they can find people, but also if you're looking to support the college. We're asking students and families to invest in this town. And the more that people see that there are these close connections, that this is a vibrant community, that this is a fun place to be, the easier it is for us to recruit the type of excellent students that businesses are going to want to hire. And so just being engaged, you know, as the Clayton Center reopens, buy a ticket for a show. Come and see what's going on. You know, come to a sporting event. You know, again, just look for those ways to be active and out in the community, and even beyond the college, just all the different ways that you make the community a vibrant place. We're not just selling Maryville College. We're selling Blount County. We're selling East Tennessee to prospective students. And so as every day, as you come up with these wonderful ideas for events, for activities, for cool businesses, for unique heritage and recreation possibilities, you're helping Maryville College as you do that. And so again, just continue to do that work. And again, if you're thinking, well, I'd like to be engaged, but I don't know where to start. We actually have a partnership advisory council. And so we have about 50 people across the community that have made that kind of investment in actively serving as partners. I'm always happy to introduce people to other people on that partnership group. Say, okay, well, if you're interested, here are ways that we've done it. Because a lot of times that peer conversation, you know, if you ask me, is it a good idea to get involved in Maryville College? Well, I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to mean it. But it's more compelling coming from one of your peers. And I'm happy to introduce you to, you know, a Gary Doyle at the RT Lodge, a Don Heineman or a Connie Hoffman at Blount Memorial Hospital, you know, a Tammy Ford or a Bryan Daniels at the Blount Chamber who have chosen to get involved in various ways with the college. And you know, what they have to say is more compelling than anything I could ever say. And those are a couple of names off the top of my head. You know, multiply that by the dozens, and you know, it's just amazing the type of support we get in the community. And again, that's something that I never take for granted. One of the things I want to emphasize, a lot of people around here are not from here. We have a wonderful mix of people who are from elsewhere, like me, who were welcomed and put to work, and people who have been here for multiple generations. If you've been here for multiple generations, let me assure you, this is not the way it is everywhere. I think sometimes people who are from here take it for granted. Well, of course the college and the community work closely together, and the public schools play nicely with each other, and the businesses support each other. Yeah, of course they do here. and we're deliberate about it. It's not like that everywhere. And so, don't take it for granted. Always be celebrating that. And it's phenomenal. And it really is a secret to the success here. And it's a secret to the college's success.
Well, Tom, thank you for being a part of the fabric of our community. Thank you for being involved in the Blount Partnership as long as you had. Thank you for leading the college as you have too through difficult times at the beginning and toward the end both. Thank you for a job well done.
Thank you very much for the chance to be here, and thank you today, and thank you for the chance to be part of this community for 10 years, and who knows, maybe more depending on whatever happens next.
Well, that's great. Well, Tom, we'll bid you adieu, and everyone else, we'll see you next time on our community conversation. Hope you have a great day. Thank you.